Welcome back to episode 161 of Tall Boy Radio. We have another guest for you tonight, so if you're interested in things that go bump in the night, or if you want to find out Dave's opinion on ghoulies, then this is just the episode for you. So without further ado, let's meet the other two hosts. Gazza?
Evening the world. Looking forward to this. Enjoy. I won't give too much away about our guests tonight and what they do. But yeah, I'm looking forward to this. We've done a couple along a similar vein in the past, though. I'm really excited for this one.
Awesome. Dave?
Welcome, listeners. I'm a bit more on the fence than Gaz is going to be, but I'm sure it's going to be spectacular.
Lovely stuff.
Yeah, he is.
So, as we said, we're joined by a guest. Now, as these guys alluded to, we have done a few episodes on the paranormal in the past. So, normally we've had Andy on, who is indeed, he's in the same sort of camp as you are, Dave, in terms of his skepticism. However, myself and Gaz are probably a little bit more open to these ideas. So, Emily, would you like to say hello and tell us a little bit about what it is that you do?
Okay, I'm Emily Waterson. I run some paranormal groups and work for other paranormal groups as a paranormal investigator and also a medium. So, it's quite interesting to go in and help groups out and find out what is there.
Indeed. That's interesting. That's an interesting perspective, isn't it? The medium side of it as well. So we've had two paranormal investigators on before. One from Crewe, a guy called Jason, and a lady called Gina from Florida. So,
okay.
And the first question we always ask is, how did you get into it?
It's something I was interested in from a really young age. So as a child, I would watch programs, buy books, or go to the library and get books out. I was always interested in sort of the haunted, local haunted areas and that type of thing. And then my first experience that really got me into it, I was 13 years old. My grandmother passed away 2 weeks previous to this experience. I was lying in bed and I just woke up in the middle of the night, looked at the bottom of the bed, and there was my grandmother, really young, just sort of looking at me. And I just had a feeling of warmth and love come from her. I wasn't frightened. Whereas if you'd have told me at the age of 13, 14, I was going to see something at the end of the bed, I'd be really scared. But I wasn't. It felt really nice. And just laid down, went back to sleep. And, from there, I just wanted to know, was that a dream? Was it real? And I wanted to know more. I wanted to know what it was and how it was there.
That's interesting. And the reason why I say that's interesting, actually, Gazza, because you've had a very, very similar experience, haven't you?
Really, really similar, yeah. And I remember it incredibly vividly, even to this day. I was sort of in bed and I was dreaming, and strangely, I remember dreaming. And we were playing five-a-side. We were having a five-a-side football match, local sort of leisure centre, dreaming about it. And I just remember all of a sudden the ball came to me, and then I just had this really uncontrollable sense of falling, and there was a great big basically hole opened up in the middle of the ground, and I felt myself falling through it. And it was strange. I didn't dream I was falling. I just had this real sense that I was falling. It wasn't, it wasn't in my dream. It was just me falling. And I always remember, and I don't know whether or not it's true or not, you'll be able to tell me more, that I always remember someone saying, if you get that uncontrollable sense of falling and then you hit and you actually hit the ground, that's you being dead, or that's you having some sort of episode, because normally you'd wake yourself up. And I remember as I was falling, and I remember really, really vividly, I remember calling for my mum and my dad, and my mum had passed previously. But I remember in the dream calling for my mum, but I couldn't speak. So I had this real sense of falling, and I remember the sensation of trying to talk and trying to shout, but not being able to. It's almost like and I couldn't speak. And I remember hitting the ground, and I remember just bolt upright, opening my eyes, and at the corner of my bed, sort of bottom right, as you would look at if you're lying in bed. So bottom right, my mum was standing at the end of the bed, and she was, and I wasn't scared. I wasn't, you know, and it was a little bit of a double take, but she was there. She didn't say anything, and I didn't say anything to her. But I'm you know, I would swear I'd take a polygraph test. It was her at the end of the bed.
Yeah.
And then I remember almost the sensation of sort of, I say blinking, but almost like a coming to and a coming round. And I sat bolt upright, and I was absolutely just drenched in sweat, like literally like head to toe, just drenched in sweat. But not scared because I'd seen my mum, but scared of the sensation of falling and the uncontrollable sense of falling. That was what scared me the most. It wasn't the fact that then I saw my mum. And to this day, I don't know. And I've never really, I mean, obviously we've done a couple of podcasts with various people, and I've sort of recounted that story. And I've never really sort of thought about taking it any further or anything like that. But I'm sort of curious. Was I having a dream within a dream, and I was just dreaming that I saw my mum, or was it an episode that I actually saw my mum? Was she there? Was she not there? You know, a couple of people have sort of spoken to me and said it could have been you know, like some clothes on a hanger hanging on the back of a door or wardrobe. 100% not. Like, just categorically, that's just not the case. So yeah, so it's strange. I say strange, Emily. Obviously, you recount a very, very similar story to what I had, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. So after that, then, so I get why you obviously are interested in it. That, for me, you know what I mean. It sends you down that journey, that route. Sorry, and myself and Gaz have always had a little bit of a passing interest in the paranormal. How did you then get in? How did you take it onto that next level then and start investigating?
It was quite some time later. In fact, only a few years ago. I was following a page of a local man. He's an author, a historian, an author, and paranormal investigator in our local area. And he runs a very small private investigation group. And I was following his page, and he had a competition. So you put your name down, and a name would be pulled from the hat, and you could join him and his team on an investigation. And I'd wanted to go on investigations, but it's a case of not wanting to choose the wrong group, because there's so many big events groups out there who are quite happy to charge you sort of £70 to go somewhere and then throw some stones or something, so that it's exciting, you know. But I didn't want that. I wanted real, honest proof. So if you went somewhere and nothing happened, then so be it. You know, nothing happens. So yeah, I went out with his group. And at the end of it, I said to him, how can I get into this? I really want to do this. And then the next day he phoned me and said him and one of the other members had a chat and they wanted me to join the group. So that's how I started. And then I've moved on to become a committee member of 2 other groups and now run my own group. So,
wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Yeah, that's incredible. That's a fair bit of experience, that is. And like you say, very interesting that you make that comment. Sometimes you're not going to see something. Just out of interest then, I don't know how many investigations you've been on. I'd be interested to know how many of those come up to be sort of fairly fruitless, and how many of them have you had any experiences? And I'd also love to hear about any of those experiences.
I don't think I've had any where I've had nothing happen at all. But there are, because I usually pick things up. If you're perhaps relying on equipment, then you may say, well, the light didn't flash, you know, the ball didn't light up or something. But then I pick things up. So in that case, that I've always picked something up or something's happened with equipment. For example, last week we were at a local museum. It was fairly quiet. We had a little bit on the spirit board, but not a lot. And on calling out, we didn't get many sort of taps and bangs and things lighting up and like REM pods going off. It was fairly quiet in that case. But it was still a good night, and we still had I picked things up and we had a little bit on the spirit board. But yeah, some places are very active.
Interesting. So before we get to the people who don't believe necessarily in these things, let's get to somebody who doesn't believe necessarily in these things. Dave, what do you make of these conversations initially?
well, as you've alluded to, I'm a cynic, I would say. And I guess I look at it in the same way as religion. You know, it's in my eyes, it's a faith-based thing, and you believe in it or you don't. And if you choose to believe in it, you'll see things, or things will happen. If you don't believe in it, then you won't see things happen. And concrete proof is the only kind of thing that's going to change me. I know we then start to get into other conversations about you accept loads of things in life without concrete proof. But this one particular, if it'd have to happen to me, and I'd have to be, undisputed in the facts, and that it really was something that was paranormal, as opposed to just, a bit of wind blowing something off a windowsill or something like that.
Interesting.
Yeah, because it's strange, isn't it? Because I suppose, picking up from what Dave said, you in one or two camps, you see a shadow move across the curtain, or you see something happen, and you've got the believers go, "Oh my God, did you see that?" And then you've got the non-believers that go, "Yeah, it's just a draft and the curtain moved." It's either one of those, aren't you? I suppose, and maybe that goes back to what Dave says in terms of, if you're open to it and you believe in it, you might see one thing, but then if you're not and you're closed to it, you might see it, but then not associate the same type of thing. It's literally, it's just a curtain moving, or it's just a shadow, or there's just a bit of light distortion, or whatever it may be, where somebody that maybe really believes will say, "Oh no, that was definitely something." And I suppose it's one of those, and I'm not hugely into I'm 100% believer. I just know what I've experienced in terms of, obviously, seeing my mum, and so I think I'm more open and susceptible to there being something, as opposed to maybe Dave, who hasn't maybe experienced seeing it, and therefore is not down that road. So, I mean, where are you on that then?
I get it. It is a belief. Yeah, there needs to be a degree of belief in it, and whenever you believe in something, like Dave says, there is a danger that you can read into it being something more than it is. Whether you believe in a God that created us, or you believe that we're made of stars, or that you consider the possibility that God created the Big Bang and that's how he created us. I don't know. There's a leap of faith. But the interesting thing is, and I'd be interested to get Emily's perspective here, if she's ever had anybody come along who was a non-believer when they set foot on that first journey with you and didn't, because Jason, who we had on, who was a ghost hunter, was like Dave, didn't believe it, thought it was bunkum, thought it was nonsense, until he had an experience himself in his own house. He moved in with this girl that he'd been seeing, who he's now married to, and he had an experience in the house that he just physically, there was no other explanation for him other than that had to be a paranormal experience, and he was brought into it from then on. And he then, like yourselves, he had that experience. You had it at an early age, Gaz had it at a relatively early age, and it sent him on this journey. Have you ever had anybody come along with you who has come on as a skeptic or even as a non-believer, has ever had an experience, or have you had an experience with non-believers, I guess I'm asking?
Yes, yeah. First of all, my husband is a non-believer, or is. He doesn't sort of believe mediums and what they do, and he doesn't believe in all the paranormal stuff and the things that happen until fairly recently, because he always says he'll believe something if I tell him it's happened, because he believes I wouldn't lie to him. So little does he know. Not really. So recently I came into possession of a haunted doll, and he was like, "Oh, it's just a China doll. It's not going to do anything." But obviously, by using equipment and things, I've spoken to the spirit attached to the doll, and he has seen that. So on request, I've asked for cat balls to be lit up to answer questions, and I've used different ghost apps that you can use, spirit box apps, and I've asked questions, and answers have come up on the apps, and he's sort of quite like, "Oh, okay." And he's heard things all based around this doll, the spirit attached to this doll. And so he's started to think, hang on a minute, if you haven't got a remote control for those cat balls, how are they lighting up when you ask them to? So yeah, he's coming around.
what equipment do you have then? You mentioned equipment then. You talked about apps and cat balls. I don't know if cat balls are just something cats play with or it's something specific.
They are just cat balls. The little ones, they've got a little button on the top. Press the button down, and then when they're moved at all, and they're quite delicate, they will flash sort of disco colours. Or you can use glow-in-the-dark balls as well. I also use dowsing rods, pendulums, spirit board, which is Ouija board, but I prefer to refer to it as spirit board or communication board. There are K2 meters, which show up the electromagnetic activity of something. REM pods, again, sort of a similar thing. There's all sorts of things, trigger objects that we can use to draw around it. I've got a wooden cross that I can draw around, see if that moves. Marbles in sand is always a good one. Writing planchette, automatic writing planchette. So there's lots of different equipment that you can use.
Well, and in terms of sort of audio, is it always physical manifestations in terms of things move, things light up, or do you capture audio? Because one of the people he sort of guested on a couple of our earlier podcasts, and he has audio capturing equipment, and he basically filters out all the different frequencies and then captures what would be white noise to a lot of people, but then filters it out, and then can, and it's not necessarily a voice as such, but he can hear things that normal sort of sound meters or speakers wouldn't pick up.
Right. Yeah. I don't do it in that depth myself. I haven't got the equipment or anything to go into that sort of depth, but I do use voice recorders, because quite often you'll be talking or something and then you won't hear something, but when you get home and listen to it, you'll sort of listen carefully and with headphones on, and you can pick something up. Right. So yeah, we usually we'll either do a full recording of the whole session, but that can get a bit tedious listening back to 6 hours of recording. So you can just record while you call out and ask for a name, put the recorder on, and then stop it, then just rewind it back and then listen, see if you picked anything up.
So Emily, what I mean, you just said 6 hours there. So how many people are in your group, and what would an outing or a session, or whatever you call it, what would that look like?
Well, the groups vary depending if it's my group or if I'm working with one of the other groups, and it depends obviously on the size of venue. So we do, if we're in a larger venue, we do split up into sort of smaller groups. So I usually like around a group of five or six maybe maximum in a small group. We'd arrive at the venue, split into our groups, then we'd go off into our certain areas, and then we would just sort of begin calling out, building up energy, and that's why usually having a good laugh is a great way of building up energy. You can rub your hands together, just any way to sort of make the energy level higher. Then we just keep calling out. Then we always have a break then after about an hour and a quarter, unless obviously if we're right in the middle of something really good, then we'll carry on. But otherwise we'll break and we'll discuss what we found, and then we'll just go on to another vigil. So we usually work from sort of 7:30 until 1 or 2, sometimes later if we can.
Okay, wow. So you mentioned, obviously you mentioned that this is the spirit board, what people would historically or traditionally call a Ouija board. And you know, we've all been those teenage lads and girls that have said, oh, well, we'll do a Ouija board, and no, you're pushing the glass or whatever, and you get all of that sort of thing. I'm curious, I suppose, when you are doing the spirit board, have you had any negative sort of experiences in terms of maybe, I'll say, unfriendly spirits or anything like that? Is it all relatively positive in terms of information finding, or have there been times where you know you either have to cut it short or you have to stop the session, or for whatever reason? Yeah,
there's been a couple of times. Once we had a spirit come through. I don't think he was an evil spirit, but we got 666 on the board, and then loads of like strange letters and whatever. And we finished that session quickly because we thought we don't want to we don't want to know where it's leading. And then most recently we went to an abandoned RAF base, and we used the spirit board in there, and someone had spray painted a pentagram on the floor, so we thought we'd place the spirit board on the pentagram, and we were calling out, and we got the first letter, asked for the name. The first letter was L, then U, and we got Lucifer.
Right.
And then we got 666, and we were sort of saying, no, don't be silly, you're obviously joking with us. Why is Lucifer here? Don't. At that point, 3 of the team saw a shadow run across the room through the other. There was another room. There was a window between rooms and a corridor, and we heard it, and 3 team members saw it run through, and we thought it was security, but it wasn't. There was nobody there, and the only way out from the room would have been 2 levels down out of the window, so they hadn't escaped. So we wondered what it was, so we carried on, and it kept going back to 666, and in the end we said, stop messing about with us, you clearly just a joker. In the end, the planchette moved very quickly to goodbye.
Oh,
and
wow.
it went there, and then that was it. The energy, it just went flat, and there was nothing there. So whoever it was didn't want to talk to us.
Wow.
That's quite scary.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, that is quite scary. I remember we did one. I think it was myself and my brother, a lad by the name of Jeff, and we did it at his house. And his parents were away. We were quite young at the time, and he had a dog, and he locked his dog in the kitchen because he didn't want the dog to get upset or involved. And we were doing it, and the usual stuff, like he was spelling out weird stuff, like who's moving a glass? Stop messing around. Next minute, the dog is outside at the back door, going absolutely crackers, like barking away at the window, and we're like, Jeff, we told you lock in the kitchen. He goes, I did, and I know the kitchen door was locked. This doesn't make any sense. So he went tootling off to the kitchen. The brother sort of like fought close behind him because he didn't dare go in by himself. And they both swear that the back door was wide open, and it slammed shut the second they set foot inside the kitchen, and the dog's still going crazy outside. So my brother says, no, I'm not having any of this. Gets the glass, throws it on the floor to break it, takes it to the garage, throws it on the floor to break it. And no word of a lie, the damn thing bounced. And my brother's got an arm on him. I tell you, he can unleash. And I tell you what, his thing must have bounced like 6 foot up in the air. I've never seen anything like it from a glass. But needless to say, we didn't sleep very well that night. We shit ourselves. We really did. So yeah, the interesting thing is when we've had other people on, and we had Jason on, and we've had Gina. When we spoke to them, they don't do any of the spirit board stuff. They
No.
It's like, oh no, we're not messing with that. So yeah, it's interesting that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Have you had any positive experiences? Someone trying to get in touch with somebody from it then, a positive way?
Yeah. Just recently we were at a farmhouse in Milton Keynes, and we were using the spirit board, getting really good results. We had dates come through, dates of birth, dates of death, and they all matched up when you looked at the age that they gave us. All the dates added up, and then we actually then communicated with one of the ladies that was with us. It was her granddad, and at that point we asked her to take her hand off of the planchette. We continued, and she was asking him questions that only she would know the answer to, just because there's always that fear that someone may be manipulating it a little bit.
Yeah.
So I only ever do it with people I do trust. So she took her finger off, and she was asking questions that we possibly couldn't know the answers to, and it was a really strong energy, and the planchette was just sliding straight to the correct answers. So
That's
that
incredible.
was awesome. That was really good.
I did do it once, not long after my granddad had died, and it was just mucking around with kids. I don't know how old we were, 14, 15, something like that. And one of them asked me when my granddad's birthday was before we did it, so I gave him the wrong birthday, and that's what came out.
Yeah.
Surprisingly. But what I was gonna ask, I mean that's silly, I know, but because that leads me on to my question, which is, what does it take to do it? Is it purely technique? Is it skill, or is it the people that are trying to communicate outwards that trigger a response?
Yeah, I think it's the energy of the people around the board. So I've done spirit board before with some newbies, so to speak, we sometimes take out groups of people new that are interested but have never done an investigation before, and the energy can be really, really low, because they're sort of just sat there sort of thinking, oh, I don't know, I don't know what to do, and they're quite nervous. So it is good to have a really good energy. So we have lots of banter and laughing and joking and messing about before we investigate, and in the breaks we have a good bit of banter and laughter, and that raises the energy. So it does depend on the energy around the board, and and also the energy of the spirit, because they need to have a strong energy as well to come through.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So the other thing you mentioned as well is dowsing. Now, the interesting thing about dowsing is it's not just used for this. So I have a friend who works in a library, and they had a water leak. And believe it or not, when they called out somebody from Cheshire East Water, whoever it was, Severn Trent Water, whoever turned up, they sent somebody out to investigate it. And the first thing they did was get a couple of dowsing rods out and start looking for the leak. To me, I was like, you winding me up here, love. Come on, there's no way that happened. But she swears blind it happened. The guy got the dowsing rods out, and that's how they found the leak.
Yeah.
The stories of farmers doing the same thing. Looking for water, and literally they'll go with dowsing rods. And it's like, oh, there it is. And you're like, really? How does that even work?
Yeah, they're very clever. We use them for my children if they lose anything, and they say, "Mummy, where's my phone, or where's my Kindle tablet or something?" I just say, "Go get the dowsing rods," and I just tell them, think about the object, think about how it feels, how it looks, how it smells if it has a smell. Think about it in your mind. Just imagine the object, and then walk with the dowsing rods. And 9 times out of 10, they will find it. They will find what they're looking for with them. They love it. They think it's magic.
Yeah.
Is that I'm just going to be cynical again, but is that not just that they're then thinking about, because when our kids leave things, we just say, well, go back, work your way backwards, think about it, where did you last put it, and then they normally figure it out. So is it that's just going on?
Could be, but you haven't seen the state of my kids' bedrooms.
Yeah, I know what that's like. Yeah, you're not finding anything there, even with dowsing rods in my kids' bedrooms. So you talk then about the different places that you've visited. Tell us about those. Tell us about the most active places that you've had experiences, and if you were going to recommend somewhere to go as a newbie, give us a few places that you've visited that have been interesting and unique.
Okay, one place that I love to go back to. It's actually a private house, and it's in I've got it written down here because I forgot. It is in Leighton Buzzard, in a village called Hotcliffe, and it was a 17th century coaching inn. And the man does afternoon teas at this old coaching inn, and then opens it up obviously for investigations. And that must be probably the most active place I've been to. I usually get affected by a spirit there who likes to make me laugh, and it's quite embarrassing because I'll be very serious, doing a proper investigation, and all of a sudden I start laughing to sort of uncontrollably, that horrible uncontrollable laugh. And it freaks people out. So like, why are you laughing? What are you laughing at? And, it's to the point I can't stop, and my stomach starts aching. That's happened on 2 occasions there. We've also had there some really big church candles sitting on the dining room table on a big tall sort of candelabra. And we were talking to the man. We'd finished investigating, and these candles, sort of one after the other, probably about 2 seconds apart, just fell off in different directions on the table. And we all just stood there like, oh my God, did that just happen? It's like, oh. Yeah. So yeah, that's a good place. And Hinchinbrook House in Huntingdon, that is a really, really good place. I'm going back there again soon. That's really active and a stunning building as well.
Oh, really interesting. And
sorry, Ad, I was going to say one of the things that we've sort of said that we would quite like to do is as well as doing a number of outside broadcasts, and we'd love because I think both myself and Adam have an interest in the sort of the paranormal and parapsychology and all of that. I think we mentioned about going to, was it Bates Hall? Was it Macclesfield? Was it Bates? So which is like a hotel or a hall that is like really sort of haunted. And as you said earlier, it's one of those that if we went and nothing happened, so be it. You know, I don't think we would go there. Oh my God, we saw this and that must be X, Y, or Z. I think and we'd love to just maybe sit in the lobby, sit in the lounge, sit in wherever, do an hour here, half an hour here, 45 minutes here, and just to see whether anything, because it's an incredibly sort of haunted sort of building. So it is on our to-do list, and obviously, you know, I say post-COVID, we were like, right, okay, and that horrible COVID word, you know, but we were like, we really want to get out a bit more and try and do a few more sort of outside broadcasts. And it was one of the places that we thought about going, and actually an episode would be, you know, TBR does the paranormal, but do it from a place that is known to be haunted, where people have experienced lots of different types of sort of hauntings or experiences, whatever it may be called, and just to see whether or not for two people that maybe are slightly more open to the paranormal, whether or not we would be able to experience something. So that's definitely something that we thought we'd quite like to do. It wouldn't be anything.
Oh, amen, yeah. And like the other place that we mentioned as well is nearby in us is a place called the Old Hall in Sandbach. And I've emailed them, but they've not got back to me, funnily enough. What it is about us rocking up, dressed in boiler suits with vacuum cleaners on our backs.
Vacuum cleaners on our back, yeah.
Yeah, they wouldn't want.
Isn't it? Okay, playing Ghostbusters, who's going to play Slimer, you know, all of that. So, yeah, okay, we get it.
But Gaz used a really interesting word there. I don't know if it was intentional or not, but he used the word open. And that's the thing, I think. Do you believe that's part of it, is being open to the idea and actually not just opening your mind, but if you believe that sort of physical energy, the lights that I've seen on your Instagram page where you shared something that I read not so long ago as well, about Einstein was interested in the energy inside the human body. And he was, you know, he was one of these people who believed in ghosts. Do you think it does make a difference that you do have to be open to these things?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you need to be open. Your mind needs to be open to allow these things to come in and to be. If your mind's open, then you're not going to be accepting of anything.
Yeah, that's it. So, like I say, when I refer to Einstein as well, Einstein had this sort of theory that we've got all this energy that's moving around us. We know it's electrical fields and what have you. Do I understand it? Certainly not. And I apologize if that's way off the mark, but I believe that's roughly the case. So he believed that once we pass on, that whether it's a spirit or what have you, he wasn't convinced, but there was this electrical energy which could then go on and be these apparitions and these ghosts. So what do you believe a ghost actually is, just out of interest?
I believe it's exactly as you said. When we die, we're made up of energy. It is scientifically impossible to destroy energy. So I believe that our spirit is the energy, and the energy is the spirit. So that if you were to see a spirit or to feel a spirit or sense one, it's that energy around you that you're feeling that has been left behind. Yeah,
interesting. And when you say as well that you're a medium, do you think that is it sometimes portrayed in the movies, a gift, or do you think that if we're all open enough, then we could all have those experiences ourselves?
Yeah, I believe anyone could do it. Yeah, I don't think of it as a gift. I think of it as something I was interested in, so I opened up to it, and then I've been taught techniques how to use it and how to do it. I think anybody, if they're open enough, interested enough, and patient enough, can do it.
Interesting.
It's interesting because yes, the paranormal, the parapsychology, the investigation bit, I get. I think if I was playing devil's advocate, I think a lot of people, in terms of mediums, feel as though, and please don't take this personally, it's not meant in that way, but they prey on the vulnerable, they play on the people, and they use very, very sophisticated body language techniques. They use very, very sophisticated questioning techniques. They use very, very sophisticated non-verbal communicative techniques in terms of trying to tease out the information that the recipient is not willing to give. and then they ask very, very open questions. Oh, I've got this person here, and someone will go, oh yeah, that's me, and then you latch onto that person, and those people want they want that contact, so therefore,
Yes.
and I'm not saying you do this in any way, shape, or form, Emily, please, but you always then prey on that want of
Yeah.
that person, and I think that's the devil. That's the bit that, because I've never been to a medium and I've never sort of gone through a medium. That's the bit that I struggle with as such.
Yeah.
So I just be interested in terms of, by all means shoot me down, and I'm only playing devil's advocate, and I am actually quite open to a medium having those experiences and having those sort of encounters. But for somebody that like Dave, who maybe is completely anti that, what would you say to that in terms of that mediums just prey on the weak and this and that?
I believe there are an awful lot of people who do exactly what you've just said. I think some of the, I don't do private readings for anyone. I only use my mediumship in investigations. Right. So I've had lots of people say, would you do a reading for me? But to me, it's too personal. Yeah. I can't do that. I couldn't, if I got something wrong, I would feel awful. So I only use mine at investigations.
Right.
But yeah, there are an awful lot of mediums out there that are, I believe, started out as mediums. I do believe all these ones that people say are fakes, I do believe they are mediums. But then I think some of them perhaps exaggerate on what they pick up.
Right.
And elaborate it a little bit, maybe, to make it fit, possibly. But yeah, I just use mine for my investigations. So I don't do readings.
Is that your own, when you see investigations, is that just you and in your group, or is that people paying you to go and investigate their house for things?
No, just me and my group. Yeah. No, I would never take money for it. I've had people say, can you come round and see if there's anything here? Yes, I will, absolutely. But I wouldn't take payment for doing it. It's something I love. I'm passionate about it. I love it. I enjoy it. And I see it as, I'd quite happily pay them for me to go and see. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's certainly not something I'd want to make money out of.
It sounds like there's a big social side to it, like any club or group of people that hang out, enjoy doing the same thing.
Absolutely, yeah. We call ourselves like Para Family, and I have met some absolutely amazing people, and I've made the best friends I've ever had throughout my whole childhood and everything through paranormal. So yeah, I've got an awesome little team of mates. They are brilliant.
Nice.
Fantastic. How many are there then in your group that you regularly investigate with?
There are sort of around 7 or 8 that are my bestest investigators, and then we've got a lot of others that sort of will drop in and out, and then obviously I've got a lot of other friends in other teams that I work with, but my small little special group, yeah, it's about 7 or 8, and my daughter is included in that as well.
Oh, awesome.
Wow.
I was about to ask, what is the demographics? Age and gender. What's that kind? Is it just a total mix?
Yeah, I'd say it's probably almost equal, men and women. You tend to get probably 30s, 40s. You don't get many much older people, but then you also don't get many sort of 20-year-olds, although my daughter's sort of, just 18, and so she comes out with me. But yeah, I think it's mainly sort of 30s, 40s, 50s. Yeah.
Okay.
That's interesting. So does anybody else have any experiences while they're at it? Obviously yourself, like you say, you've trained yourself as much as you can to be as open as you can. Has anybody else sort of, other than obviously the lady you shared earlier who was visited by a relative, has anyone else had like a real personal experience while they're out investigating it?
Yeah, lots of the team members will experience different things at different places. So one lady's had a scratch on her neck. We've had like people have hair pulled. You can be sort of pushed backwards and forwards. Seeing shadows. So at an investigation at the weekend, I saw shadow figures, and we do try and rule everything out. Like, could it be a car? Which angle is the light from outside shining through the window? Was there anyone outside walking past? You know, and we do try and debunk everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, lots of people will have experiences as well as seeing equipment going off and lighting up. People feel a change in temperature, like a dramatic change in temperature, or a touch on the hand or something.
It's strange because I think it might have been maybe an episode that Bo was on, and we've had a couple of other sort of investigators on, and they always, and you've just said basically, Emily, what they've said in terms of you genuinely try to debunk what happens.
Yeah.
To the point where actually it then can't be anything else. You know, it's all, you don't jump to the paranormal paranormal activity straight away. It's like, well, we'll look at this and it can't be that, and we look at that and it can't be that, and we look at that and it can't be that, and you go through all these things.
Yeah.
And you're then only left with, I say, the unexplained. The only then option is it is the paranormal, and something has happened, and it's a bit heartening in a way, I suppose, if that's even the right phrase, that yourself and a couple of other people that investigated that we've had on, you know, I know Adam, that was it Bo, that was there a photo that he shared, was it, and they basically tried to debunk, which is it the angle, is it the lighting, is it this, is it that, and there was a shadow on the photo, and they tried to debunk it completely, and it got to a point where they said, well, actually we can't, so therefore it must be something. You know, and I suppose that's almost to try to convince the sort of skeptics, Dave, you know, that, well, actually we've done this and we've done this and we've done this and we've gone through this and we've tried this and we've looked at this, you know. So has there been, and I think I know the answer, in terms of people that have then obviously, you know, and you've mentioned it before, been to you and they've sort of not quite had a oh my god moment, but I'm now a believer, like, and to see the change of that person on that one instance, that one occasion, that one night, that one encounter, that they've gone, no, I'm definitely not. Oh my god, yeah. And what do they feel like? Because obviously then you reach out to them after the event. What's their emotion? What is that something you can share with us, or have you got an experience of that?
Yeah, I think quite a few people have sort of, since I've been going out, have gone out and sort of, they've believed, but again, like they said, that they've believed but not had that experience, and then the experience comes along and they think, oh, actually, you know, this is sometimes they're quite emotional, because I think they're probably almost relieved that they've seen something, right? Because they believed it, but it's like believing in something, but you believe in something that you don't know is there. You don't know if it's there or not, but you want to believe. And then when they do have the experience, some people can sort of become quite excited or emotional. Some people could become scared. We don't get many sort of really scared people, because nothing, you know, I always say to people, nothing really scary is going to happen. You're not going to see this big monster's face coming out at you from the wardrobe, you know. Yeah, nothing really scary is going to happen. No. So the worst thing could be a poltergeist, and you'll get a chair thrown across the room or something, but I've not had that yet.
That sounds pretty scary.
I was going to say, that sounds pretty scary. So I mean, just go back to the sort of the spirit board, and I know you said you don't maybe do private ones, but has there been anybody that within your group that maybe has reached out to some spirit, maybe of you know, a sort of dead relative or something like that, and they've made that contact, and you've felt like a real positive, I suppose, an emotional, and then they were like, you know, like a really positive emotional experience that they've had in terms of the spirit board, and they've been in communication with either this dead relative, or it's okay, you know, no disrespect, you know, it's your auntie, whoever, or your uncle, whoever, or your grandma, granddad, whoever it may be, and we're okay, we're doing okay, it's fine, you know, and have that real emotional response to it.
Yes, yeah, it was the one that I was speaking about when the grandfather came through. That was really emotional. The lady did say she feels him around her quite often, but she'd not
Right.
managed to communicate with him at all before
Wow.
now. So
Wow.
that was really emotional for her, and we also felt the emotion around
Yeah.
her as well. So yeah, quite often there's tears.
Yeah, no, I think I get it, because obviously you mentioned that you need that energy amongst the group and stuff, and if one person is so overcome with emotion, if you've got the energy and you've got the emotion there as well, I suppose, and that must be I say fantastic, wrong, but such an emotional feeling that somebody's been able to reconnect or connect, or whatever the phrase is, and please excuse my ignorance, sort of thing, but and actually have that communication with a relative, that must be really powerful.
Yes, yeah, it is very powerful. Yeah.
So you shared then as well about, I'm just going back to it a little bit, the girl who got scratched on the neck and things, and then obviously you've got the mention of the name Lucifer. What do we have anything to fear from the other side?
Well, I'm not scared of anything from the other side. So all I'm scared of is the living. I'm not scared of the dead. So from my personal point of view, no.
Okay.
But other people have different ideas, and other people do get a little bit sort of freaked out or scared. When Lucifer came up on the board, people were like, "Oh no!" I'm like, "It's okay, it's cool. What's going to happen? What is going to happen?"
So Emily, I was just wondering. I mean, a couple of the people that we've spoken to have sort of talked about malevolence and malevolent spirits and stuff, and are worried about the physical impact that they might have in terms of chairs across the table, or chairs across the room, or sort of broken shards of glass, and that being attributed to the evil spirit as such. Have you had any experience of that? Are you worried about in terms of malevolence or malevolent spirits at all?
I've never had any experience of it myself, so I'm not too worried about it. I always take protection with me on an investigation, and I always protect myself, sort of in my mind before I go. And on the way home, I protect myself by telling the spirits they're not welcome to be attached to me. So if anything sort of malevolent is trying to get in, I'm repelling it away. So yeah, I've come across some tricksters and some grumpy, or like you would get it, on the earth plane, some grumpy, horrible people, in spirit, but not what I would call malevolent and
Right. Okay.
evil.
But you might not have experienced them. Do you believe they're out there? So all the people that talk about malevolent spirits, is that something that you feel as though is out there, you just haven't experienced it yet, or is that not something? And go back to the phrase that Adam and myself have used earlier, you're not open to that, or are you open to that but you just haven't experienced it?
Yeah, I'm open to it, very open to it, but I haven't experienced it.
Right.
I am off soon to East Drive in Pontefract. I don't know if you've probably heard of East Drive, have you? It's sort of one of the most sort of poltergeist active places,
Right.
in Pontefract. So I'm off there in June, and that's supposed to be very poltergeisty. So it'll be interesting to see. Some people go and have nothing happen, and others go and they have things thrown down the stairs and all sorts. So it'll be interesting to see what I get there.
Wow.
Does it scare you? Is there a little bit inside you that thinks, what happens if that happened? Does fear play a part?
No, I'm not scared at all. No, I'd be excited by it, and interested. So, like, what is it? How did it happen? Why did it happen? I just want to be digging into what it is and why it is, so that my brain would be so busy thinking what, why, how, where, to be scared.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'd love to be like that.
Yeah, I wish I could say the
know?
same thing. Yeah. I wish I'd have reacted like that when we did that Ouija board, because I did not come across cool in any way at all. You'll be surprised to hear. So, what's the biggest misconception about what you do then?
I think I don't know what people think we do. I think people think that I think they think we just sort of sit there and I think people think that we think creaks and things like that coming from the building are poltergeist activity, and we get excited by all these little noises. But it's not like that. You know, we if a building's settling, we know if it's wooden, it's going to settle when it gets colder. But yeah, I think people just don't understand quite what we're looking for.
Yeah.
And investigators do look for different things. Some people just want the activity and then want to go home and go, oh, the lights flashed and this happened and we got this on the spirit board. But I like to go home with information. So my notebook goes everywhere with me, and anything that's picked up and any dates that are picked up, I write them down, and then I like to go back, go on the internet and just go through everything, go through dates and names and things like that. 'Cause I'm interested in the history as well.
Right.
So
do you get many, I suppose, recurring spirits, and have you built up? This is going to sound really strange. Maybe a relationship with somebody, so it's like, hi Emily, it's such and such again, and you're like, oh hi, you know, and have you got? Do you personalize them? I mean, do they all have names? Do they all have characters? And you mentioned there's some mischievous ones or some poltergeists, and maybe we'll do sort of jester ones or this, that, and the other. So do you have any recurring ones that you seem to encounter more than others, or is it just individual encounters all the time?
At certain places, yeah, you tend to pick up on the same spirit. There is one at it's called Sharnbrook Mill Theatre in Bedfordshire, where we go. And there is a spirit down in the cellar there. The first time I ever went there, I walked down into the cellar and I was given such a bad headache. My eyes were watering and I was pretty much on my knees because the pain was so bad. And we got through to this spirit and found out it was him causing me the headache. And then every time I go down there, he does that. And then once I acknowledge him and say, yep, you're here, his name's Godfrey. So once I've acknowledged him, okay, Godfrey, yeah, I'm here to speak to you, and then he will take it away. And
literally, is it like as soon as you acknowledge him, the pain goes?
Yeah,
is that how
goes.
Wow.
Yes, yeah. And in the cellar, there's Hotcliffe in Leighton Buzzard, where I start laughing. But obviously, we've worked out, we haven't got a name for the spirit yet, not a proper name. But he seems to be a drunk, sort of elderly man, sort of stumbling down in the cellar, and he just affects me with this laughter. And he seems to come and visit me every time I go there now.
Wow.
So yeah, it's quite interesting.
Yeah. That sounds like me as a ghost.
That's what I was going to say.
A grey old man stumbling around in Stellars.
A great wise and drunken old man, absolutely, giving people headaches. Yeah, absolutely, that's you, dude.
It is me. Somewhere out there, I've lost a twin.
It sounded like you said then, Ad, stumbling around in Stellars.
Yeah, well, it's probably Freudian slip, my friends. Freudian slip, yeah. Yeah, so we like to keep these episodes to around about an hour. So I think we're around about an hour here. I haven't lost connection a little bit in the middle. Before we go and give a word out to our sponsors and find out what beer the guys have been drinking, have you guys got any final questions?
No, not questions. I mean, you know, I'm open to sort of the paranormal activity and all of that. I am very open to that, and whether it's susceptible, I'd be really curious to know what skill trick. And you mentioned earlier, Emily, that you believe everybody is or has the ability to connect. I suppose, is it how long a period of time does it take for you to learn these skill techniques to be a receptacle of spirits or such?
That varies greatly. So the circle I sit in at the local spiritualist church, when I started there was 7 of us all starting together, and we've all progressed so differently. I'd sort of put it pretty much as like a baby walking. Some can walk, they start walking and they're running before you know it. Others are sort of stumbling about for a while.
Right.
So yeah, it just depends on how quickly you can relax and clear your mind, because you need to clear your mind for spirit to drop things into your mind. If your mind's too busy thinking about last night's tea or where you're going next week, if that's all going through your mind, there's not enough space for spirit to drop things in.
Right. Okay. Right. Nice.
Oh, that's interesting. I know Dave, there'll be plenty of room in there because nothing stays in that bonce of yours, does it?
I suppose it's like glass, isn't it? It's half, and you pour it in, and then it all spills out. Whereas actually, you need to empty the glass first to then allow, for it to be. Yeah, I get that. I get that analogy. Yeah.
Indeed. So then, unless Dave's got any final questions, have you been convinced any?
No, not at all. But one quick question, Emily. Just because you mentioned your notebook that goes everywhere with you, how many places have you actually been to hold these sessions?
Oh, crikey!
You've not been keeping a running total.
I have, but not right here. But I would say I've been to probably about 40 different places, but I've been to those places multiple times. So a lot of them I've been to multiple times.
Yeah, a lot of places then, that is, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, it is. It is. I'll tell you one place that's worth visiting as well, Dave. Ollies-Ollies.com, who are kind enough to sponsor this podcast. God bless them. So while you're enjoying your spirits, if you want to get involved with some olives, some nuts, some pretzels, or some chocolate-covered pretzels, head over there. Use the promo code if you're based in the UK, Tallboy Radio, all one word and all capitals, and you'll get 20% off your order. And with every order placed on their website, they donate a school meal to a child in need with the help of One Feeds Two. So finally then, before we mention the socials, let's find out what the guys have been drinking. Gazza?
Yeah, just a couple of drinks tonight. So first of all, I've got a Northern Monk there. It's the first time I've tried this. Faith in Futures. I had 6.2% DDH IPA. You've probably tried that one, haven't you? So that's quite a good one, that is. And then just as a nice little aperitif, just one of my favourites is Le Chouffe, which is about 8, is it 8.5%? 8%, yes. So yeah, love those two. Very nice.
Nice. And Faith in Futures, very appropriate beer for this episode.
Absolutely. You see, we're up there for thinking.
Dave?
I'm still not on alcohol, so I've got a BrewDog alcohol-free Nanny State, which is all right actually for an alcohol-free lager in a bottle. It's all right.
Fair play. Well, I'm joining you on the BrewDog tonight, dude. I've been on the BrewDog Candy Kittens. I don't know if you can see that there. Yeah. So it is a raspberry and guava New England IPA. So it is a cloudy pink beer, if that's what floats your boat. It's very bitter. Didn't like it first taste, but actually I've grown to quite enjoy it. So, Emily, where can we find you on social media? If people are interested in seeing a little bit more about what you do, where can you be found?
I'm on Facebook, Instagram.
She's gone again. But yes, you can find her on Facebook and Instagram. And if you want to find Tallboy Radio, you can find us at Tallboy Radio on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube, and at Tallboy Radio Podcast on Instagram, and head over to tallboyradio.com. And if you've enjoyed this episode, then drop us a message at mail@tallboyradio.com. So Emily, she's back. Go on, tell us where we can find you then. You cut off a little bit.
Emily_paranormal, and that's on Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram.
Fair play. Well, we'd love to get you back on once you've visited your place in Pontefract. We'd like to hear about your experiences up there, if that's something that you'll be interested in.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
Awesome. And I've also sent you that picture that my cousin Bo experienced when he lives in Biloxi, Mississippi, by the way. So yeah, he experienced that, and his girlfriend at the time took that picture. So when we get you back on, we'd love to hear your opinions on that one. Yeah. So we're going to say our goodbyes. Emily, as our guest, we'll let you say your goodbyes first.
Okay, goodbye. Lovely talking to you all, and I hope to speak to you again soon.
Definitely. Dave?
Yeah, it's been great listening, Emily. As these pair said, I'm a bit of a cynic, but ultimately, you enjoy it, you're passionate about it, you make friends about it, and your experiences are your experiences, and I'm not one to judge or deny them, So, I'm the one, and I'm the cynic on the outside. It doesn't take away from you and what you experience.
Absolutely. Nice one, Dave. Gazza?
Yeah, just echo what Dave said. Really, other than that, he's a cynic. I'm not. I mean, I'm quite open to. Obviously, I have had an experience, and it was great within the first 5-10 minutes of the podcast to hear that was a similar experience that you'd gone through, and that's how you started along your journey in terms of what it is that you do now. That me and Ad, we're sort of pushovers when it comes to sort of paranormal stuff, because we are a bit of a sort of geek in terms of that, and we have got a bit of an interest in it. So loved having you on, Emily. Would love to have you back on just to chat about future experiences and this, that, and the other. So thoroughly enjoy this episode. So thank you very much for coming on, and can't wait to speak to you again.
Brilliant.
Indeed. And I think if Gaz and I were to have started a podcast a few years ago rather than this one, it probably would have been something like Pickford and Dickinson, parapsychologists, investigators / consultants. And if you're not sure what that's on about, you might have to go back and listen to some old episodes. But thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much for joining us, Emily. And we look forward to hearing from you again at some point in the future.